Hey everybody, welcome to the Faith and Fandom podcast on Love Thy Nerds podcast network. My name is Hector Mirai, and I'm back with another episode with a great guest this week. I'm joined by David Probus, and we're going to get to know him a little bit more today. And just to let you know that Love Thy Nerd has a plethora of nerdy podcasts and content for you to check out over on their podcast network, and each podcast has its own dedicated YouTube channel, so you can listen to this at Love Thy Nerd or on LTN Radio, or you can check it out on at YouTube at Faith and Fandom LTN. So lots of ways for you to check out this content and other content. But today we are joined by David Probus, also known as the Wheeled Avenger Cosplay.
Yep.
I know that's your Instagram handle. Do you go by that or?
Uh it's actually funny how I got it. I was at Starbucks one day. I had like some time or whatever after between having to go to work and coming back or whatever. I was like on a lunch break and I was in line, and so I just made a joke. So I'm disabled. I'm in a wheelchair. Just to give you context for your listeners. And I was online and Starbucks, they ask you your name, and I was just being goofy. And I said, they asked, what's your name? And I said, I'm the Wheeled Avenger. And so I ordered an iced caramel macchiato, and she was the girl behind the counter. She was just like loving it. So she was like, I got a nice caramel macchiato for the Wheeled Avenger. And the people in there started laughing or whatever. And then actually the lady that was behind me in line, she bought my coffee because she just thought it was absolutely hilarious. And so um that it just kind of like just be me being goofy, me being me. That's kind of how it happened. It happened that way. So
So you are a pretty prominent cosplayer in our region. But outside of cosplay, what are your geeky and nerdy passions?
I love Star Wars. I'm in mourning right now because of James Earl Jones.
Absolutely.
Man, that hurt yesterday. I love Marvel. One of my cosplays that I love doing is in-game and Love and Thunder Thor. Both like when he was in his out of shape phase.
Hmm.
The in-game that started out just because I thought it was hilarious. And then the Love and Thunder, I said, he's got a wife beater or like a tank top. He's got some sweatpants, and I found the trucker hat, and so it was like, hey, that's easy. I already got the wig and the hammer and stuff. So I did that. Um, I love Marvel. Um, Marvel and Star Wars are probably my biggest fandoms or whatever. I grew up loving the original Ninja Turtles series, animated, and then the movies, even even Ninja Turtles 3, as campy and goofy as that one is, where they go back to feudal Japan.
I
Um,
I don't know if you saw it because I think it was just announced like right before we start recording this. The original Splinter voice passed away today.
oh, Kevin Clash?
No,
Was it was it
something
Kevin?
Renaday. Um,
Okay. Oh, you're talking about for like the
the
animated
cartoon.
series.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, okay. I did not know that. Man,
yeah.
that's rough. Um, so I love Ninja Turtles, love Thundercats, huge G.I. Joe fan back in the day, G1 Transformers. Um, I even I watched a little bit of Teen Wolf. Uh, the cartoon, not the emo MTV
I was about
thing.
to say, I was like, was there? I didn't even remember there was a cartoon.
Yeah, there's a Teen Wolf cartoon, and then I think it came out after the movie.
Oh yeah, it would have. It was,
Yeah,
dude. It was that era where like we got inappropriate movies and slightly less inappropriate cartoon versions.
yeah, Beetlejuice, the
Yeah, I was
animated
about to say
series,
the Beetlejuice series,
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters. They'd give us something that we'd get in trouble for watching in school, then they gave us a cartoon version of it.
Right, yeah.
Because the original Beetlejuice was pretty predatorial, you
Yeah,
know,
it's kind of crazy.
kind of, and then the cartoon, it's more like you know a sloppy dude with a roadhouse.
Right. And I went back and watched Beetlejuice, not like this year or whatever. I think it was last year or something. Watched the original movie, and I had completely forgot like he drops an F-bomb in there, and I was like, wait a minute, what? I don't remember that.
Yeah, for the
stuff
80s
like
that was
that.
pretty staunch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for the 80s that was normal, but it's like, yeah, and so stuff like that. You know, I loved, like I said, I loved the GI Joes. I loved Transformers and stuff like that. So, uh, a lot of the big, big stuff. I never really got into anime so much. I watched like Silverhawks, and yeah, that's a throwback.
I mean that's 80s anime
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
80s anime. I watched Silverhawks, and then I watched Voltron, the original Voltron. That was
Hmm.
cool. But like as far as like a lot of anime, that's really kind of like what I got into, That was never really was a big anime fan, so but yeah, that's just a few of the things that I nerd out about.
So, you kind of grew up with a lot of the same stuff that, I rock with
Yeah.
um and how long have you been cosplaying?
Uh 2017. I went to Fayetteville Comic Con for the first time in 2016. I was
Okay.
not in costume at that point. I went back in 2017 and I bought my Luke Skywalker costume that I wore. Um I bought it like, I don't know, from Amazon or something like that. It was like a $50 like store-bought costume. And I figured I got the beard, so all I need is a wig
And
and
we're
had
talking
that suit.
like the sequel trilogy, Luke.
Yeah, yeah. Episode 8 Luke. At the beginning, in the tan and white robes and stuff that he's on Octo on the cliff. Uh so I said I got the beard, so yeah, let me just jump in Luke Skywalker. And it wasn't anything with me saying, "Hey, I'm going to be a cosplayer." I was just like, I had fun at Comic-Con last year and I saw a lot of people in costumes, so let me go dress up in costume. I mean, that's literally kind of how it started. And then I'll never forget, like, one of my best con friends, he's just a friend anyway, but I met him at Fayetteville Comic-Con, was Delvecchio Coleman. And he was walking by. I'll never forget this. He was walking by and he looked at me in my Luke Skywalker costume, and he double take because he was like, I glanced over and he was like, I swore I saw Mark Hamill. And I don't look anything like Mark Hamill. He's like, but for a second there, I glanced over and I saw it, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Mark Hamill standing sitting right there. And that's kind of how I met Delvecchio, but that was my first cosplay in 2017. And again, it started out just as something fun, something, it's like, hey, I get to dress up. It's fun. But then, I don't remember exactly which one it was. Keith came to me and Delvecchio and several others, and he said, "Hey, I have this concept. We're gonna be called the Holy Order of the Knights of Cospladia." And we have a symbol, a crest, and everything. It's cool. But he said, I want to do something there's the upper part of the crown, there's that lounge, that little small lounge. And he said, I want to turn that into kind of like this walk through space. And we're bringing like a D&D type of thing to life. And so we all came up with our own original characters. Um, we all came up with our own like designs and such for our specific spot in that space. And we had a story, we had props. We covered the entire lounge with like leaves and stuff and made it literally into a forest. Delvecchio made trees out of like paper mache and like
Delvecchio puts
packing
in
paper.
work, dude.
Yo, he does. That man is a wizard. And so he was like this tree. It originally was going to be like a centaur kind of like wood tree, living tree thing, but it was a centaur. Unfortunately, he had some issues with that, and so he just did like the main tree part. But he was he had his own character. I was more like a Viking kind of guy. I was a melee weapons expert, so I had like swords and maces and hammers and things like that. My name was Ingvar Warblood, and I was the chief armorer for the Llama King. Keith is the Raleigh Llama, so he's the Llama King. Um, and yeah, we that's when it really got like serious. We were like, okay, we're doing this. And you know, I've been Sub-Zero, I've been Reptile. I want to do Scorpion at some point. Um, I've done Luke Skywalker, two versions of Thor, made my own cosplay up, backstory and everything. And yeah, it's been fun. I've even cosplayed as like a WWE superstar.
I was like, I would say
I
you've done Bray Wyatt, right?
Yeah, I did Bray Wyatt. I did like the original like fedora
Fireflies.
wearing, yeah, Bray Wyatt, and that was fun. I got a picture with Matt and Jeff Hardy in that cosplay, and Jeff Hardy's looking at me like this guy's crazy.
I've been thinking of you lately with like the current WWE runs with them bringing back like Uncle Howdy and that stuff, and I was like, I wonder if David's gonna do Uncle Howdy. Like,
Not Uncle Howdy. Stay tuned.
okay,
That's all I'll say.
okay,
Stay tuned.
all right. Because like the whole time I'm watching, because they've been like milking this for weeks and
Yeah,
months now, and I'm like he could rock that mask and everything. So okay, I'll wait and see. Wait and see.
yeah.
Um,
I got something cool coming up. I got a friend of mine who lives in California. He lives in the Bay Area. His name is Nate, and he's a YouTuber, and he's also like a videographer and a photographer and everything. And he's helping me edit a video that's doing the announcement for that cosplay.
okay.
It's gonna be really cool. I'm excited.
I think the last Fayetteville I was at, um, I cosplayed as Mick Foley or
Yeah.
Mankind, and one little kid like came up all excited and took a photo, and then he came back around like an hour later. He's like, "You're not Mick Foley, are you?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Oh," and like he thought he had just run into Mankind. I was like, "Oh, that's great." Um, so you've been cosplaying this whole time. What do you personally get out of cosplaying?
I enjoy it because I get to meet people. When somebody sees you and you're cosplaying what like maybe their favorite character or whatever, they ask you for a picture, and you meet those people, especially with our con, Fayetteville Con. It's a small con, and so you can really like get to know some people, the people that you see year after year, and it's just fun to, like I said, to take pictures with people, to um to meet people and just have those conversations with them. And with me being in ministry, um it's a ministry opportunity just to kind of meet people where they're at. They're not in a these are people that you're not going to see a lot of times in a church space. That as more than I ever
Like,
do.
what? Do tell.
You got you got books about that, reaching those people. And so for me it's a way to talk to people and just to show people that yes, I'm disabled, but I have this unique opportunity that God's given me to just to be able to reach out to people, meet new people and build relationships with people. And who knows what he does with those things. I'm a firm believer that you don't meet someone by accident. Nothing happens by accident. There's a reason, behind that. And through those relationships, through those things with people I've met and stuff like that, I've actually been able to pray with people and have conversations with people and again build those relationships. And so I just love people. I love interacting with people. um when the stuff shut down in 2020, it drove me crazy because I'm like, I gotta be around people, man. This like staying in the house not doing anything, it's driving me crazy. I mean, it was cool for like the first like week and a half. Oh yeah, I don't have to go to work. But then it was like, no, I'm done just looking at the four walls of this house in my room. And, yeah, I got to get out and do stuff. And so, um, yeah, I love the interaction with people.
We'll double back to cosplay in just a minute, but
Okay.
tell people about like what your ministry is and what ministry life looks like for you.
All right. So, well, so I did youth ministry for 11 years at my church. It was a church that I grew up in. I go to Highland Baptist Church here in North Carolina, and I grew up in that church. And you know, my it's funny. My pastor at the time, he asked me, he was like, "What do you think about teaching youth Sunday school?" And I laughed at him. I was like, you want me to do what? Me? Huh? Teach? Are you crazy?" And so I literally I gave him an excuse, and it sounded good. I said, I'm gonna go pray about it. But it was an excuse because I was praying to God, don't make me do this. I don't can't teach teenagers. What are we doing here? And you know, I just felt a burden. Had to, I said, all right, I'll try it. So I tag teamed, one month I would teach, another month, my Sunday school teacher, my best friend's mom, she would teach, and we just kind of tag teamed for a year. And I just really developed, the heart for youth and teaching them. And so that next year, she wasn't able to do it anymore. She was being led to other things. And I said, all right, Lord, you want me to do this, I'll do it. I'm not going to leave these kids without a teacher. And so I started teaching youth Sunday school. Um, and then I started popping in the youth group with my pastor. He was still leading the youth group at that time, but he was training me. He was building me up. And then finally he it was me and my best friend Jason. We were working together, and he was like, "All right, it's your baby now." And I did that for 11 years. And I loved it. Got to a point where I felt like God was leading me to other places in our church. And so I stepped away, from that after the 11 years. But now I get to tag team teaching a men's Bible study, Sunday school class with my dad. My dad's a teacher, and I'm his assistant, and so that's really cool that I get to invest in our men with my dad. Um, and then I work at the Bible college in the library. I help with papers. I help with research. Typical library stuff, checking out books, checking in books. Uh, I do some light IT stuff. And then I lead worship at the college for our chapel services, and I'm on the praise team at my church, playing my guitar and singing as well. And so, yeah, I've
So
had
wait,
opportunities to
all the
teach.
ministries.
Yeah, I'd have opportunities to teach at youth camps with a really good professor friend of mine, Dr. Thomas McCuddy. We went to Clarksville for several years and taught at a camp in Tennessee called Super Summer, and I actually got to do some cosplaying out there. It's where I did I made my pirate character was out there. Our theme was pirates, and so I said, well, uh, that's why this is a thing. I said, if you're gonna be a pirate, you gotta look like one. So I started growing a beard. So, and it just stuck. So yeah, that's
How
that's ministry for me.
how long have you been involved? And by the way, the college that David's referring to, correct me if I don't say this right, is now Carolina College of Biblical Studies. Is that correct?
Yes,
Sweet.
absolutely. Yeah. Carolina
It took
College of
me
Biblical
forever because
Studies.
I've still got, look, dude, I still have the maroon members only jacket of like Carolina Bible College, like
Yep.
yeah, with the gold lettering that
Yeah.
like I thought I was like hot buttered stuff, man.
Yep.
1999, my members only Bible College jacket,
That's right.
fresh to death. Um, but how long have you been involved out there?
So I was a student there from 2008 to 2016.
Okay.
Graduated with a bachelor's degree in biblical studies, and I have a double minor in biblical languages and apologetics, because I'm a glutton for punishment. Um, and
Yeesh.
then after those 8 years, I started my master's degree. I'm almost done with my master's degree at Southern Evangelical Seminary in Charlotte.
Okay.
And I'm doing an MA in apologetics with a concentration in philosophy because, like I said, I'm crazy.
That's why you
Uh,
and Deborah got along so well. It's like y'all
yeah,
both like gluttons for punishment.
we're using one of her professor's book as our textbook. So
Okay.
Grudius, we're using his apologetics book as our textbook.
If your
So
professor sounds like a Star Wars villain, you're in trouble.
yeah. And so um but they brought me on initially just to kind of help students with papers and just helping and stuff like that in the library. And then it evolved to I was also a student advisor for a while. I was the head advisor for a little while. Um and so I would register students, and I had the task of like contacting students who were like at risk, having problems, and trying to help them, get the resources, tutors, things like that they needed to succeed. And then stepped away from that particular role. That was revamped, and they asked me to lead worship for the Bible College. I've been there. March of next year will be 8 years. So yeah, I was there 8 years as a student, and in March I'll be 8 years there as a staff member.
That's
So
dope, man.
yeah, I love it, man. My
It,
job
it
is awesome.
it's I was even before we were recording, you were telling me like how much you love it, and like I just remember. I mean, I only spent one semester there,
Yeah.
um, and I keep like wanting to go back just when life is different. Um, and I made the mistake of leaving there for a girl.
Mm,
Um, it was a good life adventure, but like dated a girl, and she's like, I'm going to this Bible college in South Carolina, and if you get on our worship team you can get a free ride. And I'm like, okay. So it's like, bye. um but it's been a good thing, and I've had a lot of people that I've grown with and have been encouraged by be part of that school.
yeah.
It's turned out a lot of good leaders in our region too. Um so double backing to over to cosplay and stuff, and also with your disability and how you handle it and how you see things with it, what have you seen any difficulties or misconceptions or struggles or anything in terms of being in the cosplay world with a disability?
Um, Maybe some minor things. And I say minor, uh, when you're when you're in a wheelchair and you have wheels and you're in a Jedi robe, sometimes your Jedi robe likes to get hung up in your tires. So that's a thing.
Dude, I never thought about that. Okay, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a fun costume to wear, but it's cumbersome a little bit. Plus it's hot, but I mean that's cosplay. You're just gonna sweat. It's
Let's
just how it
I
is.
I started working on a Delicious and Dungeon cosplay
Hmm.
back in the beginning of July, or maybe middle of July, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
And I haven't worn it for real yet,
right.
just because it includes adding another beard, a wig, and a helmet.
Yeah,
And I'm like, I'm gonna die in this
right.
heat if I add that stuff, because like all adding that on top of all of this is just like, no, it's too hot. So I
Yeah,
think October I might wear it to Fayetteville, um,
yeah,
and see. But yeah,
yeah. So just the costumes sometimes can be cumbersome, because I mean, let's just be honest, they're made for able-bodied people, most of the time. And so you have to. There's life with disability is about adaptation and overcoming anyway. You gotta learn to adapt, you gotta overcome and just figure it out. And so, and that's, I guess it's a very pragmatic way of thinking, but I mean, you just got you if you fixate on I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, you're not going to do anything. And so, when you're, at least in my the way I operate, if I see a challenge, I'll figure it out. You know, I'll figure it out the best I can. So costumes sometimes can be fun. Um, I have been spoiled um, because Fayetteville Comic Con has never really been an issue as far as like accessibility and things like that. The Crown has good facilities, you know, and and everything. Sometimes like it's inevitable when you get five, six, 7,000 people in a building. Um, there's going to be inherent bottlenecks in places, and you just got to deal with that. You know, I think at any con, just understanding the audience. Sometimes people don't have um the social skills sometimes, and that's not tearing anyone down. That's just, a reality
It's a
that
reality.
sometimes people they don't have those skills and they're not accustomed to how they interact with people. So there was a when I did my Bray costume at Fayetteville, there was a little bit of an awkward interaction with the guy. I was going to the bathroom. He held the door for me, and he asked me, he's like, "So who are you supposed to be?" And I said, "Oh, I'm WWE superstar Bray Wyatt, who he passed away, whatever." And again, I understand the audience, and so it didn't bother me. But he was like, "Since when do wrestlers use wheelchairs?" Kind of an awkward question. But I was like, they don't, but I have to because I can't walk. And he just kind of went, "Oh," and he walked away, And so, you just
Ooh.
sometimes you have to anticipate those things. And I have the personality that it takes a whole lot to offend me. Like, somebody's losing their mind and I'm sometimes you can get you in trouble, but sometimes I'm just smiling and laughing because I'm just like, what are we doing here? Why are we losing our mind? It's okay. Just I'm very laid back and it takes a lot to get me upset or get me offended or anything like that. So, some interactions with, sometimes you have interactions with people that are a little bit, you know, awkward if you're not used to it. But I mean, I've been disabled for the 41 years of my life. People stare. That's just how people are. They will look. I've had kids come up to me, "Hey, why are you in a wheelchair?" And so I give them the opportunity. It gives me an opportunity to talk to them. And I love those interactions. Sometimes parents get freaked out. "No, don't ask him that." Blah blah, blah. And I'm like, "No, no, it's cool. They're curious. I'll let's talk. We'll talk." And so the only like major major issue that I've had at any cons, this because you saw me, um, was at GalaxyCon. Artist Alley at GalaxyCon was in a very tiny room, and it
The
was
upstairs one?
very, very hard to get through that room with my tank. It was yeah, I did the outside loop of that room and I got out of there because I was like, I can't move in here. There's
No,
like,
that room is a nightmare in any shape or form. And um I just did the Brothers Boyd,
yeah,
like those guys. Okay. They
yep,
just did their Comic-Con in New Bern,
yeah.
and somebody pointed out as soon as the show started that the little convention center they were in was bigger than GalaxyCon's Artist Alley.
Oh yeah. That
And
room was tiny.
and and they kept almost the exact same spacing this year, but it was worse.
Mm,
Like in terms of people and girth,
yeah.
it was worse.
There was no room. So I went up there to see you and I went up there to see Joe Covis. 'Cause I went to high school with Joe. And I went to see Joe. I did not get to see Joe because I couldn't get down the row that Joe was in. And so I went around the perimeter and I saw you and I was just like, "Hey dude, what's up? I'm out of here," because I couldn't move. It was crazy in there. That's been the only like real accessibility like major challenge I've had. Um, I've been I've been spoiled. Yeah, I haven't gone to a whole lot of different cons. I've literally been to three. I've been to Fayetteville, that's where I met most of the time. I've been to yours, and then I went to GalaxyCon for the first time this year. We're planning, me and a friend of mine that I went with, we're planning on 2 days next year because it was just too much.
It's too much for
Uh
one day. Yeah.
yeah. So
Let me throw this at you.
yeah.
Um, if you want to go for free, uh, anytime you do panels, you get free passes.
Oh, cool.
Uh, you can turn this conversation into a panel.
Yeah, I thought about that actually. The finals at Fayetteville Comic Con, I thought about doing that. As maybe hitting up Keith for this last one and saying, "Hey, man, what do you think about this?" So I
Yeah,
think
I
that would be
think
cool.
you should absolutely do that. But
Yeah,
like, keep that in mind for GalaxyCon. About 3 months before the show,
right.
they're gonna have open panel submission, and for
Yeah.
every day you do a panel, you get a pass.
Oh, that's cool.
And if you've got multiple people on your panel, they all get passes.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
So, like I'm gonna be there anyway because I'm paying for a booth. But like
right.
for everybody else that's just doing panels, it's a good thing. And by the way, you were a great guest at my show. You that was my first time doing anything with guests, so I had no idea what I was doing. But
Yeah,
it was great having you there. And people asked about you this year.
yeah.
Um,
I wish I could have got down there this year, but we had stuff going on here at the house and stuff. I wasn't able to make it down there. It was funny. So, one of my favorite interactions at your con last year. It was so funny. I was talking to Wendell Lesueur, his
yeah,
daughter, and she saw me earlier in the day with my contacts in, and then I saw her later on, and I had taken the contacts out. And I think I was coming back from the panel that I did at your con, or I was at the bathroom or something. I had gone away from the table and I was coming back, and she saw me, and she just had this like really confused look on her face, and she said, "Your eyes were blue earlier. What happened?" And so just like not even like I went totally into character. I was like, "Oh, I was angry earlier. When I'm angry, my eyes turn into ice." And Wendell heard me and he was like, "Yeah, he when he gets angry, his eyes go like crazy blue and they turn to ice because he's Sub-Zero and all this stuff." And she goes, "Why were you angry?" And I was like, "Because I was hungry." And she was like, "That's wild." And then I told her, I was like, "No, I had contacts in my eyes." And she was like, "Oh, man, you got me." But it was so funny because she was so freaked out. She was like, "Your eyes were blue earlier. What happened?" And it's stuff like that. It's interactions like that. It's I love it, man. Um,
I can say wholeheartedly some of my favorite experiences at cons in general are cosplayers.
yeah,
Um, like, do you ever play Legend of Zelda?
yeah. Oh man, I go
Okay.
back to the very beginning at the NES game.
Yeah. So, on the more recent ones, like the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, they've got the Great Fairies.
Yeah,
Um, and especially in Breath of the Wild, or maybe it's Tears of the Kingdom, I don't know. That if to upgrade your armor, they'll like blow you a kiss or they'll like smother you or whatever, and it's usually something affectionate. And it was a GalaxyCon, not this year, but last year. Um, this a lady walked by. I was like, "Are you a great fairy from Legend of Zelda?" She's like, "I am," and I'm just like, "Oh, that's great." And she's like, and she like leaned over my table. She's like, "Do you want me to upgrade your armor?" And I'm like, and I like
whoa.
beat red, flush like, and I was like, "Yes." And so she like blew me a kiss and
Yeah,
then went and like kind of like smacked me,
yeah,
and she had a little gold star like that you get when you upgrade your armor. She
yeah.
put a gold star sticker on me.
That's awesome.
And that's still sitting on my dashboard, that gold
That's
star.
cool.
I stuck it in my dashboard until the adhesive wore off.
Yeah.
and now it's just sitting on a little action figure display with Uncle Iroh. But like, it's just little like that. And then
Yeah.
this there was at Fayetteville. I don't think I was there last year. But the last time I was at Fayetteville, the same year I was Mick Foley, there was a cosplayer as Chopper from One Piece,
Yeah.
and she gave out friendship bracelets with like One Piece quotes or whatever, and like
Nice.
um somewhere on my desk somewhere probably there's a she did one that's yeah dude, hold up I can reach it. I killed Darkseid. Um, but she did this one, and it's just a Chopper friendship bracelet that says "not
Nice.
food."
Yeah, yeah.
Because like everybody kept trying to eat Chopper at first
Right.
in One Piece. Now it's just like little things like that.
Yep.
And but cosplay interactions generally make shows better as a
Yeah.
whole. And a lot of times you'll get more of the old head, like strict comic book collectors. They're like, ugh, cosplayers. They're like, like they're
Right.
it's just like they kind of get like that attitude, and I'm like, y'all are missing the point, man. These people increase the whole atmosphere.
Yeah.
Um, and so to ask you this, kind of going along with everything, what do you feel like is the best thing you've accomplished as a cosplayer?
Unlocking an area of creativity that I did not realize that I had. And that came with um it came with the Knights of Cospladia and a couple of the different things that we did. So we brought the D&D thing, ish thing to life, and we had to come up with character design, backstories, um just all kinds of stuff. And I mean, I sat down and I wrote out this story of Ingvar Warblood. His village got raided in this great war against his people or whatever, and he didn't have anyone to, because this village was ravaged, and so he didn't have anyone to kind of serve, and so I incorporated like the Ronin kind of thing in that character. And so he finds the Llama King and realizes this is the king he wants to serve. And so he is now the weapons expert that trains the army of Cospladia in, how they use their weapons, stuff like that. Then in October a few years ago, I want to say it was 22, um we did like a walkthrough haunted attraction kind of thing with that lounge, and I created like a dead pirate. um I did my own makeup, which was just me throwing stuff on my face to make me look dead. um I got I got asked if, oh, are you cosplaying Rob Zombie?
Dude, you did look like Rob Zombie.
I
I
did
remember
kind of look
that.
like Rob Zombie. Yeah, yeah. And
Next
so
cosplay.
the first, yeah, I thought about it. I have really thought about
When
that.
they did the House of a Thousand Corpses, dude, the other show, I was like, yeah, you could have rocked that.
Yeah, should have. I didn't think about it at the time, but I should have. But like the first version of that, I used like the liquid skin, like the liquid latex, and it made on my forehead, like right here, it just had like look like a big like gash, or like a big area of just like decayed skin and stuff. And so the test I did didn't come out looking quite like what, the final product was, but that was purely because I'm not a professional makeup artist or anything like that. I just threw it on my face and was like, let me see what this does to make it look cool. And then I found this stuff that it's called mouth effects, and it's mint flavored, but you can do like different colors. And so I got this one that like in liquid form, it looks like black. But when you put it in your mouth, it kind of makes your teeth look like this dark, sludgy green color. Um, and so it added to the whole like dead pirate, thing. And so we did that where we would have people walk through and we were kind of trapped in it was a museum and we were the exhibits. The monsters were the exhibits. And we had like the Book of the Dead, and we had other like props and stuff from fandoms and things, horror fandoms and things like that. But we were the exhibits. And then when we wanted to do our break, where we were kind of roaming, um, we were going to do it where they were going to make an announcement over the intercom that the monsters had escaped the museum. We didn't get to do that because Keith's running around like crazy during that show, and we didn't have anyone to make those announcements, but we did like go out in the main floor and just like scare people and stuff. But like things like that, as a cosplayer, I started out just doing stuff that I wanted to do, like characters that I liked, and it developed that creativity to where I came up with backstories. Graybeard, the pirate, had a backstory where he was part of Blackbeard's crew, and Blackbeard got jealous because there was a lot of his crew following Graybeard at the time. So he sent him on this wild goose chase to find a cursed treasure. And when he found that treasure, which I have an amulet, like a fake gold amulet, when he found that amulet, Davy Jones attacked him and pulled him down to the locker, and he's stuck in the locker until he has someone to soul to replace his with. And so he comes out like once a year to try to collect a soul to replace his skull so he can, or his soul, so he can come out of Davy Jones's locker. And I just came up with that, right off the top of my head that day, and I just wrote it down. Um, Never in a million years would have thought something like that would ever come out of my brain.
Just given the opportunity to be creative, and that's pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
I love it.
So, ask you, I think, two last questions, and
Okay.
kind of same thing but different perspectives. Um, for your unique, background in ministry, as well as how you've approached everything in terms with your disability and cons. So, I'm going to ask you both. You can answer them.
Okay.
What can the church do better to minister to the con world? And B, what can the con world do better to accommodate those with disabilities?
Okay, so the first, what can the church do to accommodate the con world? I think just like anything, you have to meet people where they are. Um, the world that we live in today, there are people in this country that have never stepped foot in a church, not even for a wedding or a funeral. So, used to you could invite your friends to church and they would most often come with you. That doesn't work as much anyway. You can still make it happen, but um that demographic of people, they're already seen often as outcasts because, well, it's cool to be a nerd now. But I can remember a time like if you watch Star Wars, you're picked on.
Right.
If
I
you
grew up in
watch
that.
Star Trek, you were picked on. If you watch this or that, or you were into this or that, you were picked on. And so that community has largely been outcasts already in life in society. And so that is an area where they feel like they belong. You have like-minded people who like similar things, and we're creatures that flock together with people that we have in common with. So I think the church, the best way to do that is get out in the cons. Go to a con. You know, go out there and have conversations with people, and that's again, that's one of the reasons why I love doing the cosplay, because it gives you an opportunity to have those conversations with people that may not go to a church. They may not have any interest at all in a church, but you meet them at a con, and you talk about things that you have in common, and you can turn those conversations into spiritual conversations. And I think we do a terrible disservice to them by not going to meet them. And that's anybody. We gotta meet people where they are. Um, you know, Jesus didn't say sit in the four walls of your church and make disciples. He said go and make disciples. There was a reason why, you know, the the disciples had literally had to go in 70 AD when the Romans came in and destroyed, the temple in Jerusalem and stuff. That forced them to disperse and go out into the Gentile world. And as a church, we gotta get out of the walls of our church and get in the community and get into these things, get into these events, and start talking to people. And it's a simple. Not everybody you meet, you're gonna lay out the full gospel to, but if you can plant a seed, if you can just, hey, you see somebody at a con who's struggling with something, hey man, you know what? Jesus loves you, and so do I. If you need to talk, come find me. Something as simple as that. But if we don't get out there and do it, we're not doing anything. We're just ineffective. And I think if we're going to reach that demographic of people, we have to go to those events. We have to go to those things and go to them. Um, and remind me of your second question again, just so I get the wording.
Before I hit the second one, I want to tell you this.
Okay.
Um, and like you may already know this, but guess who came to the Vertical Con this weekend that if you would have like or just I would have never expected to be a thing. Guess who showed up out of our
I don't know.
cosplay world?
Who is that?
Kasdan.
Yeah. Okay.
Kasdan came 30 minutes before the show opened
Yeah.
and stayed through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I've known him from cons for years, and it's just
Yeah.
like I saw him in New Bern. He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to come to your show." I'm like, "Okay." Like, you take that with a grain of salt. Like anytime
Yeah.
somebody says you're showing up, I'm just like, so he showed up and like hung out the whole day and
Yeah.
like made some jokes and stuff and hung out. He actually won the Marvel arcade cabinet door prize.
Yeah.
Um,
I saw where he won that.
and but then like he was talking about wanting to host a mini con like in Elizabethtown, which is where he lives, and our
Right.
church has a location in Elizabethtown. So I said, well, potentially you could use our space in Elizabethtown. And I was like, this is in the pastor for Elizabethtown was there. I was like, this is DJ. If you want to, swing by
Oh, I know
on,
DJ.
yeah, I know you know DJ.
DJ's my
Um,
buddy.
yeah, DJ's a good homie. So DJ was serving at the con, and
Yeah.
so sure enough, Kasdan showed up at the end of the church service on Sunday in Elizabethtown. I was just like it's
That's
just
cool.
cool, and it's
And
just
he's a
like,
good dude. He just is a genuinely nice dude. From the time I met him at Fayetteville Comic Con, him and I crack jokes. I crack jokes about my disability because life's too short.
yeah,
And I remember the first time I cracked a joke, he just kind of looked at me like, did he really just say that? And then we both busted out laughing. So yeah, I love him. He's awesome.
he's about to turn 33, apparently, and we had at some point like in one of the walkways at the and heading into the auditorium at the church, there's a giant wooden cross. He's like, hey. Can I come when this kind of clears up? Can I put this over my shoulder and take a photo and say this is my cross to bear, turning 33? I'm like, okay. And he was like waiting for me to like deadpan. It was just like, but it was a neat thing, like
Yeah.
one of those things of like you meet people, and this thing I didn't expect him to show up, and it was going to be some like evangelical thing or thing like that. But like,
Right.
you know, if you would, I wouldn't have ever thought he would have shown up to that show in general,
Right.
just because it is intimidating to people. But like, I feel like we've built enough of a relationship to be able to say like, okay, I know you, I know you're
Right.
safe. The other question was what can so out of the three cons you've been to,
Yeah.
from what you experienced and what you said with Galaxy Con with the spacing,
Mm.
from spacing to production to entertainment to execution, what can the con world do better to not only accommodate but empower people with disabilities?
Um, that's a hard question to answer because again, I'm spoiled.
I know you're spoiled, so
But definitely, you know, I really enjoyed the spacing, that we have at like Fayetteville Comic Con and things like that. And overall, Galaxy Con was good. Um, there were a few little hiccups. One of the things that was cool that they did, and I'm glad they did this because like nobody I met had any like really crazy lines, but I have, with my disability and stuff, I can't wait in like a 3, 4, 5 hour line for an autograph or a picture with someone. I have to have access to the restroom and different things like that just for, medical. And so one of the things that GalaxyCon did was, if you had a doctor's note, you could get like a fast pass. You had, um, and that was a cool thing that that they thought about that, that they realized that some people can't stand in a long line for a long time, you know and so I had my note and I was like, hey, I'm just presenting this, and I explained to her and she was like, oh no, you're good. And she gave me the button, and there was only one line that wasn't real efficient on, and it come down to, volunteers, they didn't necessarily notice that there was somebody in that line. And it was with Paul Sun Yun Lee, which he's fantastic. He is so awesome. The guy is one of the nicest guys. Um, but it I was in line for 15, 20 minutes, so I mean it wasn't like, we were forgotten or anything like that. And it was just the fact that there was a lot of people in that area and they didn't really notice that that I was there. Uh but like when I went and used it for Matt and Jeff Hardy, it was quick. That they were on top of things. And the other lines that I met Taylor Gray from Rebels, which I had already talked to him before. I talked to him when GalaxyCon was doing the Zoom things.
yeah,
He's super cool. And I met a couple other people. And so that concept of having like a fast pass for like an ADA thing, that was really cool. Um, I'm one of those people that unless I absolutely need it, I don't really go for like special treatment. Um, you know, I'm just a dude. You know what I mean? I get around a little different, but I'm a dude, just like everybody, just like any other dude. And so, I don't like, I try not to exploit that. I know there's some people in the world that will exploit that. You know, no, I'm not going to say that I haven't used that sometimes as like a perk. You're at Disney World and you want to ride, some rides and stuff. I did use like the disability access service, but I had a legitimate reason for that. You know what I
right.
mean? Some of the queues and stuff weren't compliant. A little tight. And so with the chair and everything, but so I've not really had any problems with anything as far as like cons are concerned. I really want to get to some other cons. It's just difficult, like going to cons and stuff out of town. Because driving longer distances is a little bit more difficult for me with driving hand controls, and it's just a little bit more cumbersome.
Right.
But I do want to get to other cons and stuff. But from what I've experienced, most of it has been like really good. People have been really good. You're always going to have one or two who, whatever, like I said, those interactions that might be awkward or something like that. You're always going to have, things like that. But most everybody that I've met has been like super like, come on, let's do this. I have to shout out the Cosplay folks. the people that I cosplay with the most: Del Vecchio, Jessica, James Callahan, uh, um, Liz Parker, several others who I've cosplayed with. There was like no question. It was just like, hey, David's part of us. We're, what do you want to do? Let's do this. Um, and Del Vecchio has been one of those guys like that. That's my dude. That's like my partner in crime, my con buddy. And we got some really cool shots and stuff, him and I together. Um, and then, I just love like cosplaying with him because we create some cool stuff. But it's just, it's been like interactions with people like that and stuff. It makes you feel good when, you're just, hey, that's David. He's cool. He's part of us. And so I've experienced a lot of that where just people were like, hey, this is cool. Didn't care about the chair, didn't ask about the chair, which I mean, if they ask, whatever. But they didn't question anything, or anything like that. Didn't look down on me or anything like that. It was just like, hey, this dude's cosplaying with us. Let's do this. So
And for the majority of the part of the time too, most, like I'd say 85% of the shows I go to, like even if I'm just keeping an eye out for things like that, there's
yeah,
not usually a lot wrong. I can
right.
name, like, there's like one show specifically that I'm familiar with in the Charlotte region that um Artist Alley's stair is accessible only.
Yeah.
Like, it's 2 floors up and no elevator. And it's just like, and we keep having conversations like, hey, maybe not.
Yeah.
Let's find some other spaces.
Yeah.
But for the majority of things, I've seen it's been really good.
Yeah.
So, David, if people want to check you out or anything, or do you just want to be left alone? You
No.
can, don't talk to me. Um, but where can people find you?
I got to get this right because so it was taken. The name was taken.
Okay,
Um, exactly the way I had it was taken. So I have to always look at it because I don't remember how many underscores and things
gotcha.
that there. But my Instagram is underscore the underscore wield underscore Avenger underscore cosplay underscore. Um, and so that's where you'll see pictures, you'll see cosplay announcements. Um, I'll do like videos and things like that. Sometimes I've done reviews on shows and a couple little things on that. I've announced guests and things as well on that. But that's if you want to like see my cosplays, if you want to, kind of understand like some of the things I do and you want to see some of the things I do, then that's the place to check out for that. So I have just a regular personal Instagram. I just, it's me. But then that one is the one that gets all my costumes and stuff because, it's easier to find everything when it's all in one space than if you just got like an Instagram with 11 different, pictures and stuff and you weren't
That
looking for certain things.
that's me, and like mine is absolutely a jambalaya of everything.
Yeah.
And I, like, at one point in time I had a Faith and Fandom one and then a me one, and I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I don't care anymore. It's like, it's like
Yeah.
you take what you take. Um, but awesome, man.
Yeah.
And if you have one last thing to tell people, what do you want to tell them?
Don't be scared to do a cosplay. Figure it out. If it's not exactly like what the character you're going for, if you can't get it exactly, that's okay. If you're having fun, you're enjoying yourself, and you're being that creative, using that creative mind, the part of yourself that's creative, showing your fandom, um, despite your, you know, challenges, disabilities, whatever, you know, I want to encourage you to do it. It was just me wanting to have fun. I had a beard. and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna be Luke Skywalker." And that's it
Boom.
started. That's how it started, and so get out there, don't be scared, just do it, put the best effort you can, and if your costume costs $15, who cares? You know, as long as you did it, as long as you put the love and the time in there, get out there and show people what you're a fan of. So I love it. Don't let it stop you.
Well, David, thank you for taking the time to hang out with me and share people with your story. And we'll have a link to David's Instagram in case you can't count that many underscores.
Right.
Um, that'll be in there. And remember, you can check out this podcast along with others on Love Thy Nerds Podcast Network. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com at Faith and Fandom LTN. And also, you can check us out on the Glue Network, GLU, on Roku, and along with other nerd and faith based products and materials. And you can always, just find us around on the socials. So, David, thank you for taking the time to hang out with us. Thank y'all for taking the time to watch or listen to this. And hope to hear from you and see you soon.
Yeah, man.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. And God bless y'all, man.
God
Appreciate it.
bless you.